Welcome again, Keepers of Light, and I call you that because you are just that. Keepers of Light. As I look on to the field for Keepers of Light, what I see is a hesitation in myself to express. I think I have to kind of like laugh at this moment because one of the reasons why I had paused in speaking was to get more clarity, and it was to stop what I thought was starting to occur, which was that I started to see that the way that I had intended the channel to be wasn't necessarily what I was seeing reflected back to me. I was seeing more of a hierarchal build to it, and this really just stopped me in my tracks and had me relook everything. The reason being that I am not here for I'm not here for fame, and I'm not here for that type of interaction whereby there is a sense of obligation towards one another. There's a sense of obligation between us. And I'm also seeing how I'm not here for that role that once used to exist where people are somehow assigning more importance to someone other than themselves. They're assigning more importance to one person than others. And this is not to say that importance doesn't exist, but that we are at a period of time where we are to be finding importance in ourselves. It becomes even more critical at these periods of time that we find ways that we are equating our experiences of ourselves in ways that are more expansive, so that we are not repeating what has been happening and what has been happening in terms of how we've been structuring, how we have structured our reality, our realities. And so I took a step back for clarity, and I did receive exactly that. I have said before that I have a pretty strong spiritual team, a pretty strong representation of the architecture that I am. And in that way, I can say that I have the opportunity to experience this incarnation from a more consciously aware formatting than that which would equate to being very much immersed within the narratives that exist in our time and space as it is. It is not to say that one is more important than another, but that if you are understanding what your role is, and if you are actually listening to these words, it's more likely that you are stepping into an understanding, or have stepped into an understanding, that your presence, and not just your presence, but that your awareness to what is happening at that larger scale when you're looking at the existence and totality of the human realm. What is occurring through you, and not necessarily to you. And what I am learning and what I have remembered, because technically what I am experiencing and what I am now conveying and transmitting is really a message of remembrance. Remembrance in that way that when you take time to map back to origin, that which is consistent of the structures of reality that are now prevailing, then you will be able to see that, to see reality within a higher resolution point. And I wanted to just point out one thing here today about the architecture of reality. And this is really the main, I don't know if I can say main, but this is one of the functions that I take on. I am an aware architect of reality. I am here to transmit codes of not necessarily verbally either. I think a lot of the transmissions that are being felt from me are nonverbal, but that which is verbal in me is always messaging and pointing towards the non-distorted ways and of interpreting reality that take the narrative away from that which is energetic in nature. It's like what precedes narrative is what we're looking at here. And this is what I represent. I represent an identity point of access, a portal of access to that which exists in you that is before the narrative that exists as what would be the sustaining structure to reality as it has been up until now. And with the apparatus of awareness, what happens from here on is that if you become clearer and clearer to that level that you are understanding how you function as an energetic being and the structure, which is to say the architecture and the blueprint of your beingness, what it equals when we're minusing out the narrative to that which you have been interrelating from that orientation point of interrelationship. When you are able to wipe away, and not wiping away as in getting rid of, but wiping away in that way that you're remembering that the very basis to the structure, the 3D solid, apparently solid structure to your reality is really based upon the many layers of interpreted energetic raw data information. Then you can begin to understand that that information itself no longer needs to be translated or in the same manner that it was translated, so that it created a sort of looping effect so that reality could be created. Now, this is not to say that things are wrong. It's just to say that when we look at the mechanics to existence, and we are coming from understanding the mechanics of reality, it's not that you take away the need for there to be a choice between one side and another side. And when you wind up doing that, you begin to you begin to allow reality to come through you as a function of what prevails that is pre-narrative. What prevails that is pre-narrative is that which is the coherent functioning nature of the harmonics of beingness. There is a natural state that we all have and that we all serve. as a function to our lives, which is outside of the roles that we have been and that we have assigned ourselves within the 3D nature of how we are interrelating with one another. When you are able to access that level of understanding of your functionality, you begin to function in that way that humans were originally designed to function. That way in which free choice, that way in which free will is being experienced. That way in which self-empowered, that way in which self-empowerment is meant to exist through you. And so here I am. And what I represent, again, is really just a catalyzing factor to the system that we are, within the system that we are. And what I'm finding that I needed to clarity on from having taken this pause is that I am building, that we are building horizontally, that we are constructing reality horizontally, not vertically, that we are at this period of time experiencing an orientation shift, a paradigm shift that is composed of an expansion to reality that is no longer hierarchical based. It is no longer vertically based. It is based upon us working as a network of an ecosystematic coherence grid. And so what this also means, and what I am translating it to mean, because I will repeat again, because what I share is not truth. What I shared and what I share within this channel and within any service that I'm providing, any product that I'm providing to you, is simply an interpretation of reality that is meant to be felt by you from your own orientation point, and to help you to reposition yourself so that the understanding of reality becomes more expansive in nature and less restrictive, as it were, when you were once defining yourself to be within a localized, within a predetermined sense of identity. The predetermination exists as a structure that once worked and was necessary because it occurred, but now is meant to translate in your reality as a tool of creation, because within it is a blueprint of the ways in which you are now being energetically given the opportunity to use as a baseline to supporting the sort of changes that are necessary and are becoming more necessary, as we are seeing how the nature of our structures are themselves already showing weaknesses, and are really showing that they are now already in the process of reconfiguration. The way in which this is demonstrated within the 3D will not be easy to see, because when you're looking at there being energetic changes and reconfigurations because a system has hit a point where it no longer is able to sustain itself, given that the layers of the layers of energetics that it was built upon were non-sustaining to that level that continuity would be present and available to all, then what happens is that you wind up seeing the breakdown in ways that are quite painful for the human being. Yet, if you are listening to these words, you are able to expand into what I refer to as the cosmic perspective. That perspective that is able to locate the human being beyond the narratives that have been extended to the majority of human beings as what we are being here. We were always intended to expand. We were always intended to evolve in consciousness, within awareness. We are able to do that. We are not only able to do that, we are already doing that. And right now, what I'm sharing is really just, again, a reminder of what we are already doing. The resolution and the way in which I mirror back to you in the way that I'm presenting information will make it possible for you to see what part that I'm reflecting to you that is necessary for your system to reconfigure itself in that way that will be apparent, and how much of the distorted architecture you are now seeing drop away from your life. Not only seeing drop away from your life, but seeing it drop away from your life, not from an external reference point, but from an internal reference point of understanding that what is occurring is by nature. That is by nature. What exists as the present moment reality rather than the interpretation of it. So I welcome you, keepers of light, to what I am creating as a station of light. The station of light is where you are able to find orientation within yourself about the way in which you are naturally configured to be present here, without the weight of distortion that was really a narrative based upon a more limited experience of being human than that which you are now able to embody. Because what happens from here and forward is a melting away those the words. What follows from here and from here on and for you is a return to yourself. A return to the self that you were intended to be before any version of the externalized mirror of structure of reality that seems to be now, but is really the past that is available to you, is now more available to you as a structure to be used to remembering to remembering your true nature. One more thing before I go. There is a nervous system upgrade to the human template, to the human field. And do not worry if you find that you are often in a experience of climatic ups and downs at this period of time, because those are just indicators to the recalibration of not just your system, your internal system, but the external system that we are all becoming a witness of. The station of light is designed to help you stabilize your sense of orientation, which is to say, it is to help you stabilize your sense of understanding of yourself as being supported, internally supported within what appears in the 3D to be chaotic. And so what will appear to be within your own internal system as also chaotic is simply a demonstration and an indicator of the changes that are about. There are people like us, keepers of light, who come together within this realm of existence of remembering that which is important to remember, as we are all the different parts of the entire system that is necessary for us to come together so that we can begin to restore the flow and the natural flow of energetic movement that had become stagnant within the structures that were defined on distortion. So you yourself taking on your natural state before narrative is imperative, not as a necessity, but as a natural functioning nature to the role that you have incarnated to play at this period of time. Not necessarily like a role like a TV role, but that part of the structure that you are designed to come back into, so that what your experience becomes is no longer an experience of having to survive being human, but having to be in alignment to thriving. So, keepers of light, I'm back. I'm back in that way that I am able to stabilize and have been able to stabilize myself and to stabilize my own nervous system enough to be able to convey these words and to continue to present messages when I deem it necessary, in that way that no longer is obligatory to me. And so if you don't necessarily expect me to follow the normal configuration of how people have been designed to show up in these platforms, but I do want to stress that my presence is always here with you, helping to stabilize the system, helping to stabilize the network that has already come online. And I look forward to being able to work with you in this new way of working, because this new way of working is going to look completely different than what and how we were showing up beforehand. It will not be based upon any of the ways in which we have known, at the heart, that this is not what the motivating factor to beingness is on this realm. The motivation to beingness is to return to the self, to return to our true selves. And as we do so together, we come in union and we come in community and establishing a world that we have always known was possible, even in the midst of all the ways in which the opposite was being exemplified. I will leave this message here, Keepers of Light, and I thank you as usual for always being here in support of me in ways that you yourself are likely not yet seeing, and that I myself have likely already have not seen and have yet to see. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. Until next time, Keepers of Light.